The world is constantly hunting for your breaking point. From the moment you open your eyes, a relentless tide of noise, demands, passive-aggressive remarks, and unseen pressures attempts to breach your mental walls. People will test you. Circumstances will provoke you. The society you live in is fundamentally engineered to keep you reactive, emotionally exhausted, and easily manipulated. You're expected to snap. You're expected to argue, to defend yourself, to desperately prove your worth to people who have already decided to misunderstand you. But what if you simply stopped playing their game? What if, the next time the world tried to drag you into its chaos, you stood completely still? There is a level of psychological mastery that makes a human being virtually untouchable. It is not born of arrogance. It is not achieved by being cold, heartless, or aggressively dominant. It is forged in the quiet, absolute command of your internal state. Thousands of years ago, the Stoics understood a lethal psychological truth. Whoever controls your emotions controls your life. Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, and Seneca did not rule their worlds by shouting the loudest. They ruled themselves so thoroughly that the external world had no choice but to bend to their stillness. When you strip away your desperate need for validation, when you sever the cord of your own emotional reactivity, you become a ghost to those who try to manipulate you. You become impossible to provoke. You become mentally untouchable. And when you reach this state, the way people react to you will shift entirely. They will be unnerved by your calm. They will respect your silence. They will realize, instinctively, that you are operating on a plane they cannot reach. Today, we are going to lay out 9 Stoic discipline laws that will completely rebuild your psychological armor. These are not passive philosophies. They are aggressive, defensive protocols for your mind. Before we begin, you must make a choice. If you are tired of being a prisoner to other people's chaos, hit the subscribe button right now. Leave a comment declaring your commitment to this transformation. Share this video with someone who is giving their power away. And do not skip a single law. Every principle is a brick in the fortress you are about to build. Anchor your intention right now. Drop this exact phrase in the comments. I am the master of my own fortress. Number 1. The armor of absolute indifference. We are socially conditioned to care deeply about the judgments of strangers, colleagues, and critics. When someone insults you, disrespects you, or doubts your ability, your biological instinct is to feel wounded. You want to correct their perception. You want to force them to see your value. But the moment you engage in that battle, you have already lost. You have handed them the ultimate authority over your self-worth. The Stoics practiced the discipline of indifference, not as a lack of empathy, but as a tactical, emotional shield. True indifference means recognizing that another person's opinion is simply a manipulation of air vibrating against your eardrums. It has no physical weight. It has no tangible reality unless you choose to pick it up and carry it. To become untouchable, you must accept that people will misunderstand you, and you must become perfectly comfortable with that fact. Let them think you are arrogant. Let them believe you are failing. Let them whisper behind your back. When you stop fighting to control their narrative, you reclaim all the energy you are bleeding out. You become a void to their insults. When they throw a stone at you, it does not hit a glass window. It drops into a bottomless ocean. That level of absolute indifference terrifies toxic people because they suddenly realize their words have absolutely no currency in your world. Number 2, the discipline of the dead silence. In any conflict, the person who speaks the most holds the least power. When someone provokes you, their goal is to trigger a cascade of frantic words. They want you to justify yourself, to stutter, to raise your voice, and to lose your composure. They are fishing for a reaction because your reaction validates their significance. The most devastating counterattack you can deploy is the dead silence. When someone crosses a line, makes a passive-aggressive joke, or attempts to belittle you, do not rush to fill the awkward void. Look at them calmly. Hold eye contact and say absolutely nothing. Let the silence hang in the room like a heavy weight. Silence is incredibly uncomfortable for the human ego. When you refuse to react, the pressure bounces directly back onto the person who made the comment. They will begin to backpedal. They will nervously explain their own joke. They will expose their own insecurity simply because you refuse to play your part in the script. Silence is not surrender. It is a strategic withdrawal of your energy. It tells the world that you do not perform on command, and that your voice is a premium resource that must be earned, not demanded. Number 3. Ruthless energy auditing. You wake up every day with a finite battery of mental and emotional energy. How you allocate that battery dictates your destiny. Most people are bleeding their energy dry before noon. They spend it agonizing over a text message, arguing with a fool on the internet, or stressing over a scenario that exists entirely in their imagination. To become mentally untouchable, you must become a ruthless auditor of your own attention. The Stoics knew that attention is the currency of the soul. If you give your attention to petty drama, your soul becomes petty. If you give it to greatness, your soul becomes great. You must enforce strict borders around what you allow into your psychological space. If a conversation is spiraling into useless gossip, walk away. If a relationship is consisting solely of draining complaints, cut the cord. You do not owe anyone your bandwidth. When you stop spending your energy on the trivial, you stockpile a massive reserve of focus and willpower. People will notice this shift. They will see that you move with an unbothered, relentless momentum, completely immune to the trivial distractions that keep the rest of the world trapped in mediocrity. Commit to this standard right now. Write in the comments, "I guard my energy fiercely." Number 4. Sever the cord of explanation. One of the most subtle ways you hand over your power is by constantly explaining your decisions. You say no to an invitation, and then you follow it up with a 5-minute apology about how busy you are. You set a boundary, and then you frantically justify it, hoping the other person won't be angry. When you over-explain, you're subconsciously asking for permission to live your own life. You're telling the other person that your boundary is up for negotiation and that their comfort is more important than your conviction. An untouchable mind operates differently. A boundary is a brick wall, not a debate. If you decide to leave a toxic environment, end a relationship, or say no to a demand, your decision is final. No is a complete sentence. "I'm not available for this" is a complete thought. You do not need to present a thesis defense for your own well-being. When you stop offering explanations, people stop looking for loopholes. They realize that your word is law within the borders of your own life. Number 5. The architecture of intentional discomfort. The modern world is designed to make you soft. It offers endless comfort, immediate gratification, and an escape from every possible friction. But a soft mind shatters the moment life applies real pressure. If you only ever experience comfort, the slightest inconvenience will feel like a tragedy. The Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort to immunize themselves against fear. They knew that if you willingly step into the fire, the heat can no longer terrorize you. To make your mind untouchable, you must actively seek out the hard things. Take the cold shower. Have the difficult conversation you have been avoiding. Lift the heavy weight. Wake up an hour before the sun. Fast for a day. When you routinely subject yourself to intentional friction, you build a callus over your mind. You prove to your subconscious that you are capable of enduring suffering without collapsing. When an actual crisis hits, when the job is lost, when the betrayal happens, when the world turns dark, you will not panic. You will simply look at the chaos and recognize it as the exact terrain you have been training for your entire life. Number 6. Eradicate the disease of hope. This law sounds harsh, but it is the key to absolute emotional freedom. You are likely suffering right now because you are clinging to the hope that a toxic person will finally change. You hope that if you just love them enough, explain it clearly enough, or give them one more chance, they will suddenly realize your worth and transform into the person you deserve. Hope, when applied to toxic people, is a poison. It keeps you chained to an illusion. It forces you to live in a fictional future while ignoring the brutal reality of the present. The Stoic mind operates strictly on the evidence of reality. To become untouchable, you must kill the fantasy. Accept people exactly as they are right now, based entirely on their consistent actions, not their empty apologies. When you stop hoping that an abusive boss, a manipulative partner, or a selfish friend will magically change, you instantly detach from their control. You stop trying to fix them, and you start navigating around them. You reclaim your reality, and in doing so, you strip them of their leverage. Lock this realization in. Drop this in the comments. I accept reality and release the illusion. Number 7. The supremacy of the pause. There is a fraction of a second between the moment something happens to you and the moment you react. For the average person, that fraction is non-existent. They are insulted and they immediately strike back. They are frightened and they immediately run. They are entirely enslaved by their biological reflexes. But true power lives in the pause. Between the stimulus and your response lies your ultimate freedom. When someone attempts to provoke you, your goal is to stretch that fraction of a second into a deliberate, agonizing pause. Do not let their urgency force your hand. Breathe. Evaluate the board. Ask yourself, what do they want me to do, and how can I do the exact opposite? When you master the pause, you stop being a puppet to external triggers. You observe the anger rising in your chest, but you refuse to let it grab the steering wheel. You respond with cold, calculated precision instead of blind, heated emotion. This level of self-control is intimidating to witness. It shows the world that your mind is an impenetrable fortress and that no one can force entry without your explicit consent. Number 8. Relinquish the need for closure. We carry the heavy corpses of past betrayals because we are waiting for closure. We want the person who wronged us to admit their guilt. We want the universe to balance the scales. We want the final chapter of the story to make sense. But waiting for closure from someone who disrespected you is like asking a thief to help you find your stolen money. Closure is a myth. It is a societal lie that keeps you tethered to the people who broke you. An untouchable mind understands that closure is not something you receive. It is something you decide. You do not need an apology to move on. You do not need them to understand your pain for your pain to heal. You simply accept that the event occurred, extract the brutal lesson it was meant to teach you, and turn the page yourself. When you no longer need their remorse to find your peace, they lose all retroactive power over your life. You become the sole author of your ending. Number 9. The fortress of the internal locus. The final and most supreme law of Stoic discipline is the realization of where your value actually lives. If your self-worth is tied to your job title, your bank account, the attractiveness of your partner, or the applause of your peers, you are incredibly fragile. Because every single one of those things can be taken from you in a matter of seconds. The Stoics operated from an internal locus of control. They tethered their identity exclusively to things that could never be stolen: their honor, their resilience, their discipline, and their virtue. When you build your foundation on your own internal character, you become invincible. The market can crash, people can betray you, and the crowd can turn against you, but they cannot touch your core. They cannot confiscate your discipline. They cannot bankrupt your wisdom. When you deeply, truly realize that you are the only guardian of your worth, the external world loses its ability to terrify you. You walk through life with the heavy, unshakable aura of someone who has absolutely nothing to lose, because everything they value is locked securely inside their own chest. Becoming mentally untouchable is not an overnight hack. It is a lifelong campaign of resistance against a world that wants you weak, reactive, and compliant. It requires you to stand in the fire of your own discomfort. It demands that you stop making excuses, stop blaming your past, and start taking absolute, terrifying ownership of your mind. But as you implement these 9 laws, as you withdraw your energy from the noise, master the pause, embrace the hard things, and detach from the opinions of the crowd, you will feel a profound shift. The anxiety that used to dictate your days will evaporate. The people who used to walk all over you will instinctively step back. You will stop surviving your life, and you will start commanding it. You have the blueprints. The fortress is waiting to be built. The only question left is whether you have the discipline to lay the bricks. If you have watched this far, you are not like the masses who consume content and do nothing. You are a builder. Prove it right now. Hit the like button, share this with someone who needs to fortify their mind, and subscribe to join the ranks of those who refuse to remain weak. Leave your final vow in the comments below. I am untouchable. Stay grounded. Stay disciplined. Guard your fortress. I will see you in the next one.